It's been a year since the lockdown devastated South Africa's creative arts industry. A sit-in protest by artists at the National Arts Council offices has highlighted the plight of workers in that sector. Back in 2018, the cultural and creative industries contributed around 1.7% of GDP. That amounts to 63 billion rand, and it employed over 1 million people. It was also growing at a rate of just under 5%, and of course then COVID-19 hit. Today, artists are struggling to make ends meet, theatres are closing down, and to put it plainly, the future looks bleak. Many in the sector pinning their hopes on economic relief from government until they can return to stages and perform to crowds. So what should government do to support artists? To help us answer that burning question, we're joined in studio by Charles Mabaso. He is the Chief Director of Cultural Development at the Department of Arts and Culture. Charles, good morning.
Good morning.
It's great to have you with us in studio, but we've got some really difficult questions to ask you this morning. To put it plainly, the arts industry in our country, as we can see from that sit-in at the National Arts Council, is on its knees. What are the plans for resuscitation?
It's true. It's on its knees, and we are very worried about the people that are sitting at the National Arts Council. However, we have, since the sitting started, we have engaged several people within the industry. We have short, medium to long-term plans that we are working on. In the short term, as you may be aware, we have all the relief efforts that are aimed at stabilizing the sector, from first wave, second wave, and what we call now the stabilization sector, where we have called for proposal for both individuals and companies, because the key issue is that those companies in the creative industry, they employ thousands of people. So we have requested them to come forward to submit applications so that we can support them, same as individuals. So now we are currently in the third phase, but more than that, in the medium to long-term plans, we have worked out on a creative industry master plan that is aimed at strengthening the sector, that is aimed at making sure that quality jobs are created, but also we are implementing the revised white paper. There are several recommendations that have been brought on board. Those, as government, we are doing that to implement those recommendations, because we think that by so doing, in the long term, we'll be able really to intervene and sustain the sector.
So here's the strange thing, Charles. Whenever we speak to people from government regarding the sit-in at the National Arts Council, an impression is always created that a lot is being done and the situation is being sorted out. But when you speak to the artists, part of that sit-in, which we've just done there now, my co-anchor Ayanda Nyati is there, the impression is completely different. You know, these are people who say they've been unable to eat for the past year. They've been unable to provide for their families. And what makes it worse is that 300 million rand presidential employment stimulus program, they've not benefited from it at all.
Look, you can understand what people are saying, but the truth of the matter is that in the first wave, there's been more than 80 million that went to support people. About 4,900 individuals artists were supported.
This is not from the stimulus program?
No, this is not prior to the stimulus package. Then we had a second wave, which also went to companies and individuals. We are working on the third wave. On top of that, Solidarity Fund also assisted the department by providing packages to say how can we best assist everybody else. We have now what we call the presidential stimulus package, which part of the money went to the NAC, but part of the money went to other programs throughout the country, museums, because they were equally affected, to everybody, and people are working on that. So the challenge is that people, we are in a dire situation, and we can understand when artists express these things, because this thing don't happen like the following day as you dish it. And there are processes that are in place, and people are worried. And of course, we have been engaging with them, the artists at NAC as a department, together with the Council of the National Arts Council, to see how can we best address this challenge. It's not resolved yet, but we are working on that.
Okay, so let's hone in on the issue of the 300 million rand.
Yes.
To my understanding, 37 million has been paid out, but the delay now is that too many applications have been approved and it exceeds the amount of 300 million rand.
Yes.
So as it stands, do we have the 300 million rand minus the 37 million rand that has been paid out? We can account for every single cent.
As we stand, we have people who have oversubscribed and people who have been communicated to say, look, your application, we have received it, it's successful, but the challenge, the money that is available currently as we speak, is not enough to cover everybody else. Hence, we have been approached to say, what intervention can we do? We have spoken to the National Arts Council Board. We have spoken to departmental agencies across the country to say, what assistance can they do? And the department, we are looking at our own funds to say, how can we reprioritize to make sure that we deal with this crisis? It's not concluded, as I said, because it's money that we didn't know that we'll be expecting to contribute. Mm-hmm. So we are working on that process.
So the big issue is, can we account for all of the money?
That's the reason to say all the things that have been committed, we need to make sure that we account. We can't just, put money in. We need to account to say, out of the money that we've given, how many people have you committed yourself? How many applications? How were they adjudicated and verified? And what is the number of people that are not going to get money? We need to do that. And if needs be, we need to include, professional people who can assist us to verify and intervene in that situation to make sure that at the end of the day, we are able to account for every cent.
It's quite a simple process. It should be quite a simple process, isn't it? We have 300 million.
Yes.
This is what we're spending the 300 million rand on. So why does it seem like there's this lack of transparency in what's going on with that presidential stimulus program?
No. The issue is we have a 300 million. People have applied. We have given letters confirming that we are going to get money.
Yeah.
But the people are more than the 3 million that we have allocated, and then that is a challenge. So you can't make a commitment and issue out a contract and you don't honor it at the end of the day. So by the end of the day, you need to make sure that every person who have been promised to be given money, that person ultimately get the money can be accounted. So the challenge is that is oversubscription versus the available resources.
Again, my question is just, we know where the money is, right? It hasn't been paid out, that's what you're saying. But it is there. It hasn't been mismanaged. It hasn't been stolen.
Yes.
So what happens from here on in terms of your department's conversations with that sit-in at the National Arts Council?
What we have said to both the National Arts Council Board and to the artists to say we understand and we hear their plight. Then we went back as a department, we sat and say, how can we best intervene? We are consulting, we are trying to get additional resources to assist. But it is a process. It's not going to happen like yesterday.
When do you reckon the situation with the adjudication of applications in this stimulus program, when will that be finalized?
Well, we are meeting every week, and this week alone we have met twice with the NAC to say, continue finalizing the paperwork and all administration processes, continue engaging people, and we have brought even the advisory board or ministerial advisory task team to engage, and we are saying who else can help us to make sure that we expedite the process so that we conclude ASAP and so that we can disperse funding.
Just a last question for you, Charles. Who is overseeing? Is it the National Arts Council that is overseeing the disbursement of that money?
The National Arts Council, in consultation with the department, is overseeing the process, but also we have brought in the ministerial advisory task team to be part of the process so that collectively we can all intervene and deal with the issues. Right. So it's not the National Arts Council alone. Yes.
Charles Mabaso, thanks for coming into studio.
Thank you very much.
The story continues, I suppose.
The story continues.
The answers that you've given us here, we've heard them before.
Yes.
And clearly the sit-in continues, and so artists are not satisfied with the answers from the department.
No, the fact that we are really consulting with them, we are talking to them, it means we understand their plight. We really understand where they come from. We are doing everything in our power to make sure that we resolve the process as soon as possible. It's not conducive for people to be sitting there. Yeah. Thank you.
Charles Mabaso is Chief Director of Cultural Development at the Department of Arts and Culture, and he joins us on this big developing story that we are tracking for you. That sit-in by artists now in day 24. at the National Arts Council, and it's all around the disbursement of that 300 million rand presidential employment stimulus program, which they say lacks transparency. It's a big story that we continue to track for you right here on the channel.